Alright, so today we have debating Nick
Hello.
and Thomas.
What's up, dudes?
So, Thomas, how would you describe your political ideology?
I'm in the middle on everything, man.
Alright, and Nick?
Mainly conservative.
Alright. So, the way this is going to work is basically I'm going to give one of you 5 minutes for each question. We mostly already went over the rules, so you know what not to do. And so, first topic, a fun one abortion. I will start
Ha.
with Thomas to defend your point and
Ugh.
explain your views. You have your 5 minutes.
Well, really, I believe that when it comes to the terms of abortion, it's up to the parent. I believe that at no point in time is it up to anybody else. But when I say the parent, I mean as in full family. So birth father, birth mother, and then if there's any marital items, as in the father or the biological father or mother are married to someone who is not the biological mother or father, their opinion also comes into it. And I believe that it should be a majority vote on whether or not it should be aborted or not. I believe that this is the best way for us to go on, and that this is a deal that has been blown completely out of proportion. And that's really it for what I've got to say.
Alright, good. Uh, and let's see, Nick, you have your 5 minutes starting now.
All right. I do believe that abortion is wrong. I don't think that in any circumstance other than the life of the mother that we should kill the babies or have the abortions. I don't think it's the mother's choice that they should be able to, kill their child. I don't think that's correct. I think that all children, born or unborn, should have their rights and should have their chance at life. That's all I got to say.
Alright. And Thomas, do you have any rebukes to that?
Um, in all honesty, no, really.
Alright.
There's nothing really to say there.
Alright. Alright. Then I'm just going to straight up move on to our next topic.
Yeah,
Alright.
Hmm.
So
it was a very hard
transgenderism.
one.
I know that, Will, you
Cool.
seem pretty passionate on this,
I
so
love
I'll
this
let you
one.
go first and start.
Oh, you want me to do
Yeah.
it? All right, I'll say it. Entire transgender movement is completely incorrect and completely terrible for our society. I don't believe that in any rights they should be able to change who they are. You're born with a sex, and that's how you stay. The entire idea that gender and sex are separate is very damaging and is a very terrible thing to be letting our kids do, especially with all these new people trying to use hormone blockers and things like that. It's just completely outrageous, even with like the sports things. It just when sorry about that.
That's fine.
When you are born, you have a sex, and you cannot change that, no matter what you think. I think that all transgender cases should be treated through therapy or medicine, and should not be treated through these, surgeries. That they should not exist. I don't think that people should be able to do that at all, and I think it's something that we really need to work on in America. That's all I got to say.
Alright, Thomas, you have. I'm going to cut it down to 2 minutes for each of you because you both seem pretty fast. Go ahead, Thomas.
Well, my thoughts are that the transgender movement is blown completely out of proportion. I believe that people who are transgender or who believe that they want to become transgender are blowing it out of proportion. I believe that it's up to the person whose body it is to decide, because they have the brain function to do what they want. It's in a way like people with mental disabilities. We don't send people with mental disabilities straight to therapy. So we let them live out their lives and do and work as they want. We help guide them in the same right direction. But if they make a mistake, they make the mistake. I believe that, like, if you decide that you want to change your gender, that's completely up to you, and it's your thoughts on like how you think you should be. I believe that people coming through time will realize the mistakes they've made,
Mhm.
or they'll believe that what they've done is proper and that they've done what they believe is right for them, and how they think of themselves is what they want to do.
Alright, Nick, you have a minute rebuke if you need one.
Okay, I will take it. So my response to that is, I think that I agree with you in some parts of that, and I agree that it should be treated like a mental disability. My biggest argument against it is that they should not gain access to, say, the bathrooms or women's sports. I don't think that a biological male should be able to use a women's restroom, or a biological male who switches to a female should not be able to compete in female sports. If they have the problem of dysphoria and they do it by acting like a female, by, even maybe surgery, they should not be able to gain access to things that as biological men we should not have access to. That's all I gotta say.
All right, Thomas, do you need a rebuke?
Yeah, I would like to say that I understand where you're coming from about we're separated by our gender, and I see that, but my problem is that we take gender too seriously. Gender is a social construct designed by us to separate each person, and I believe that kind of segregation is creating a divide between us as Americans because we're segregating ourselves. And I believe that even this movement right here is helping define that we need to stop segregating ourselves by gender and become free people in that regard.
So, for the record, there you are for males and female sports, like if they decide to change their gender, as in transgenderism.
Yes, I believe that is completely okay. And I believe that we should actually just completely wipe the gap between those two sports in general, actually. I believe that females should be allowed to play on male teams and males should be allowed to play on female teams, or just combine them together.
All right, that is your 1 minute. Nick, do you need a rebuke?
I do.
All right, and your minute starts now.
So what I'll respond to that is that yes, it is there. The social construct exists that separates male from female, but I believe there's a reason for that. Men and women are different in a lot of ways. In the sports problem, all these men who transition to women, they end up winning all these female sporting events, and it's because men do have a better upper body strength and a lot of other things. Men and women are different from each other, and so I think those barriers should exist and should not be just completely broken. I can see where you're coming from, but I just don't believe in it. That's all.
All right, Thomas, do you need a rebuke? If not, we're moving on.
Yes, I would.
All right.
My thought process on this is like, you think of things like football and basketball, team sports, where it's decided on your physical ability to play the game. I feel like if you are good at the sport, like if you're a female who's good at basketball and you're good enough to compete with men, then you should be able to do so. And if you're a male who's as good as females, then you should be able to do so. I feel like if we were to stop telling people that they have to go to one side of the sport and mix them together, people would begin to understand that they need to create that difference, but they would understand it mentally, not just thinking, oh, well, because this is like this, we have to be mad at it. I feel like once people get to see the change that we've created,
10 seconds.
and like that, they would understand why we need to do this, why we do what we do.
I'm going to give you an extra 30 seconds to explain what you think would happen if we did it.
I believe that if we began to merge male and female sports, and females began to join teams like football leagues, like large-scale NFL football leagues,
Right.
and they were put out on the field, and they got hit by a man who was bigger and stronger than them, they would come to understand that they cannot play that sport, and they would believe that we should make our own league that is dependent on a weight class instead. I believe that they would realize that weight class is the way that we should be defining sports, not like physical, what we are as women or male.
All right.
I feel like we'd understand that as a difference.
All right, and that's time up for you. Nick, do you need a rebuke?
I do.
All right, I'll give you a minute 30 because I gave him one. All right, go.
All right. So what I'll say about that is I can sort of understand the idea of wanting to merge them, but I don't think it would work out very well. If we were to take male and female and mix them together, males would vastly outperform females. So the men would do way better than the women, which is a problem. And I do like the idea of weight class. I think that is a very reasonable suggestion. But I think that women should have a fairer chance of not competing with men, because the fact is men are just typically better at sports. That's just how it goes.
Is that all? Because
Yes.
you've still got another minute if you need it.
Okay.
Alright.
I'm good. I would want to request a question for Thomas, though.
Alright, you may request it.
All right. Well, what I gotta ask is, we are talking about sports, and that's one of the ones that I'm least concerned about. How do you feel about the transgender bathroom laws, supposedly?
Alright, Thomas, you have 2 minutes.
I believe that it really doesn't matter. Like, if you've got a dong, you can use the urinal, and it would be awkward if you didn't have a dong to use the urinal, and so you'd still just end up going to the bathroom in the stall. I believe that it wouldn't really change much. It wouldn't make it so that, like, oh, I'm a lady, I'm going into the men's bathroom, I'm gonna pee in the urinal. Wait, this is really awkward because I'm squatting over a urinal. I believe that everybody would realize very early on that this is pointless, and the only people that would be doing it were the rebellious ones that are like, oh, I'm going to do this because I voted for it. And I believe that we would all come to the understanding that bathrooms really should just stay separated, or we could just merge them into one that's just a big bathroom with urinals and stalls, and everybody can use it how they please. I believe that there's no real reason for the bathrooms to be separated.
I know this is
There's no
breaking
point.
moderation, but dude, I would hate to be a girl and have to use a male's restroom, dude. That would suck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alright, continue.
I just think that like the whole us separating girls and boys' bathrooms is pointless because like in the end everybody's just going to use a urinal or a stall, and what difference does that make? What
I have
kind
a-
of toilet you use?
Alright, Nick, I believe you're gonna need a rebut, so I'll give you your minute.
All right. So what I'll say about that is, I do not completely. I believe that men and women separated bathrooms are completely necessary for every reason. You don't want a man in a woman's bathroom. That's just not right. Sometimes bad things happen like that. And I'll ask you, how would you feel if a biological male who has a dong were to walk into a female restroom? Do you think that is correct, and do you think that that should happen?
I believe that I feel like there is no reason that it couldn't happen and it shouldn't. I believe that if he was to go into the women's restroom, is he just gonna whip his dong out and pee on the floor in the bathroom? Because even then, if a woman was to do that and someone said something about it to some officer, if it was a lady in the bathroom, the same situation would happen. They would be arrested. Like if I was a girl and I went into the girls' bathroom and stripped completely naked and peed on the floor, or did something like that, or if I was just naked in the bathroom, then the police would still be called on me, and I would still get charged for the same thing of public indecency.
At all?
Nick, do you need a
Yeah,
rebut?
that's it.
Okay, so what I'm going to say about that is that I'm not really more talking about the public indecency. That is correct, but I still do not think it is right for men to be in the bathroom with women or possibly little girls, especially when men typically are more intent with ill intentions. So, what do you think about someone using the, rules against, or like the transgender bathroom laws per se, if they were a thing now? Let's say a man said that they identified as a woman, walked into the woman's restroom and raped someone. How would you feel about that? What do you think should be put in place to stop?
And Thomas, your
Uh,
time.
my thought on that is you're justifying it as males are the only people who do things like that. But if I can look some stuff up here real quick,
Yes,
if
you may.
you can give me some
If you need
time.
to cite your source.
Sorry, I'm just looking some stuff up here.
Yeah, I'm gonna shrink the screen so they can see
Sticks.
everything here.
Where is it? Dang it, where is it? I can't find it right now. Where is what I'm looking for?
Whatever. I'm just gonna keep it up here. No, I'll shrink the screen back. I want to shrink the screen, Thomas, so I can.
I think this
shrink
isn't
this
a
thing
very
down.
good source. Okay, I can't find it, but if I could, I would say this, but I don't feel like it's, since I can't find a source, I'm not going to talk about it.
All right, I'm
But
gonna
I believe
pull my screen back up then.
that we're talking about the rape of male against women, but we never really talk about the rape of women against male. And I feel like if I could find the statistics for it, that would be great. But like,
Do you want me to look them up for you?
I just need to. I want to find this. I realized I looked up the wrong thing.
All right. I'll give you an extension period for about another minute or so.
All right.
Here it is.
Are you gonna post it in Discord then?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it on this website.
Okay, I wanna.
There's a lot of different statistics on here.
If you go to the CDC, they should have it.
I'm on rain.org right now. It's got all kinds of random things like Native Americans are at risk of sexual violence and things like that, but I'm trying to find the statistics of male victims and the
Could
statistics
you
of
search
female
it?
victims. I tried to.
Hold on, let me look it up on the CDC because I'm sure they have it because they've got like regular rape statistics.
Are these statistics including or not including? Never mind.
CDC.
I'm trying to find
Women
statistics
on
of
man rapes.
I'm trying to find statistics of women raping men and of men raping women.
Mm-hmm.
Where is
Let's
it?
see. Victims of sexual violence. Every 92 seconds an American is sexually assaulted.
Yeah, that's the thing that's on the same. You're on the same website as me.
May I interject when the first moment is possible?
You can interject
you
now.
can interject
Yeah.
now if you need to. Okay, so I
Alright.
found it. It looks like
Yeah, I
Not-
see it now.
as of 1998, Hold up, I'm just gonna pull it up on my.
Yeah, 98, 2.78 million men.
Have been raped.
And yeah,
That's been reported.
I'm looking at it right now.
Because I've heard a lot of people when they talk about rape of the male, basically, it's kind of like you got raped by a woman, bitch.
Yeah.
I've heard
My
things
thought is
that,
like,
so.
we talk about it, and I understand that there is a large amount of women who are sexually assaulted. It's 17.7 million, as stated here. But I believe that we talk less about the amount of male sexual crimes, which, even though it is very much lower, I wish I could find some more recent statistics because I believe this has probably gone up because
That one's probably
increased
outdated,
size.
yeah.
Yeah, these are both outdated, but still 2.78 million. That's still a very large amount of people raped, and I believe that like if we combine the restrooms, which is still kind of what we're talking about here,
Yes.
that like it wouldn't really change these numbers. I believe that like we combine the restrooms, it creates more traffic in the restrooms. You'd see more men and women ready to stand up against something like that happening in the restroom than if a man went into a restroom that only one woman was in while there were other men in the other restroom and did it to there instead of with other people that are watching. I believe that would create more traffic in restrooms to lower the amount of restroom rape, and also you say like things like children going into the restroom, and this would also help with that because you have more people in there. I still believe that it's really a people number thing. It's the amount of traffic that would be created to cause more watchfulness over it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's gonna be your 1 minute. We let him go for about 5 there.
Yeah,
Because
I
we're
was
trying to find the statistics. So,
yeah.
Nick, I'm gonna give you as long as you need for a review.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to say to that is I'm going to say you're saying that it increases the traffic going through the restroom and that it would make more people there to stop if something happened. Now, the one problem with that is that restrooms aren't always going to be crowded, which allows situations where maybe one woman is in the restroom and then a man walks in and nobody can say anything because it's just a public restroom. It's just a gender neutral restroom. And so I think that's wrong. The other thing that I think is incorrect about that argument is still think it, and call me a madman, I still think it perverted for a woman and possibly younger women to be in the same restroom where dudes have their dongs hanging out in the urinals. I don't think that it is correct for younger women to be seeing men taking a piss. They don't need to. Our
How
restrooms
young
have
are we
always
talking about?
I mean,
For
basically
context.
to the age where it would be inappropriate to see a
So,
man
like,
using the restroom.
14 and younger?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'd say. And what I'd say about it is that it our restrooms right now, they just don't need to be changed. I don't think that changing it, I think if anything it'll make it worse, and I don't think that it is something that we need to change just because a few snowflakes want inclusiveness, quote unquote. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that affecting everyone else just for their sake is correct.
All right. Thomas, do you need a review?
What I gotta say.
I'd like to say
Your minute
that
starts now, or minute half.
I believe, like, I understand the argument that just because it's a couple special snowflakes doesn't mean that we need to do it, but like, I don't see the risk. Like, you talk about young women seeing men's dongs hanging out and things like that, but my thought is if they go into a female restroom, they see close to the same thing. They may or may not be sitting in stalls, but I believe that we're just separating them. Like, you see men bring young boys into the bathroom and see other men's dongs hanging out. Why is it inappropriate for a woman? What creates that stigma that a woman can't see that? A young woman can't see that, but a young male can. And the opposite way, the young male can't see the same thing as a young woman.
All right, I can answer that if that's okay with you.
You've got a minute to start.
So, all right, what I'll say to that is that as for you say like a younger woman seeing another woman or a younger man seeing another man, I think that gender separation is important because we're all different, and I think that a man still has a penis, and so they know what it is, obviously, and so if they see another man's penis, it's not as bad as a little girl seeing a man's penis. I don't think it's necessary to combine restrooms for any reason at all. In that aspect, I think that gender separation is a reasonable thing, and I think it should be kept in the society. In fact, if not, more enforced with things like gender-separated schools, but that's a completely different topic that we're not getting into today. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Thomas, do you need a review?
Wow, this is interesting.
I agree. Very interesting, to be honest.
I feel like I've seen a kind of sway in your thoughts here. It's not very big, but I see you've come to notice that like it's not necessary, it's not important, and I believe that too. I believe it's not like the most important thing that needs to be done right now. I believe that this is something that is a small, more unreasonable thing that's not probably going to change in the near future, and I understand that, and I have accepted it. But I still, my thing here at this point is that we've created a social difference between a male and the female reproductive system, and that we've created a stigma against a female knowing about the male reproductive system and a male knowing about the female reproductive system. And like that's just kind of my thought there. I feel like we're getting a little off. I've gotten a little off topic, but that's
All right.
my
If we could recircle back to transgenderism and the original question, what do you think overall? Should it be allowed, or should they do some type of thing like? Because I've heard this before, where basically you put them on like the hormone blockers for like a year being monitored, and then you wait after that year if they still feel like they should be a woman / man, depending on what they're transitioning from and to. And what do you think about that kind of plan, or should it just be banned outright, or just whenever you want it, you can get it? And Thomas, I'll start with you.
I believe that it's completely up to the person. I feel like it's the same with my abortion, except a little bit different because, it's not a group of people; it's one person deciding their own fate. It's like I put it as like dropping out of college or dropping out of high school, where you decide to change your own fate and you decide to ruin what you could be doing, or maybe you drop out for a reason that's good and you change yourself for the better in some way. I believe that it's just all down to something like that,
I'm
where
actually
it's
gonna
the
give you
person
a
choice.
like weird ass bonus question, so to speak.
Mhm.
What do you think should the parents be able to block? If they're like, let's just say 12-year-old is like, I want to be transgender, and I want to start doing the stuff. Should their parent be able to block it, or should they have to get their kid what their kid wants? If the
I
kid
was
says
actually
so.
just about to go on to that. I
All right.
believe that just like things like your legal drinking age and legal tobacco buying age and things like that, it should be waited for until the child's age. I believe that we should not allow them to make that decision until the age of around 21, between 18 and 21, because studies have shown that between 18 and 21 is where the brain fully begins to start functioning in its most mature state, where you
Right.
can make your most competent decisions. I believe that once it's there, it's up to the person, and that's it.
All right, I've got one last question for you. What do you think if the parent actually tries to get their kid into transgenderism, as in like trying to force their kid to do it, even if their kid doesn't know the repercussion that it could be? Because there was actually a case, and I can't remember which state it was in, where the mother actually was trying to get her boy to be transgender, and the father was trying to fight it, and she was trying to get the court to demand that the father paid for it. What do you think of
Once
something
it,
like that?
I believe that it's not a parental decision,
Right.
because a parent doesn't determine what the child's brain is like. You can't decide that your child is something. Like, my mother couldn't decide that I'm going to go wash dishes for the rest of my life. I get to decide what I'm going to do in life. So I believe that that should definitely be a cause for some sort of child protective services,
All right.
to determine whether or not the parent has any issues with abusiveness over the child and forcefulness behavior. And that's, yeah, my spot on that.
All right. Nick, you have. I'm gonna give you like a 3-minute review
All right.
if you need it.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say about it. I do agree with you on that last part. I think that if someone wants to do any of that stuff, they need to definitely wait until they're of age. I think that if parents forcing their children to do that should definitely, CPS should definitely take care of that. I think that that is child abuse, honestly, because they're too naive to make their own decisions, and if they fuck up their life because their parents, made them, then that's an issue. Now, for the rest of it, what I'm going to say is I don't think that we should just outright ban, the whole thing. I think doctors should not be forced to make those surgeries. I think that's the doctor's choice. I think that anywhere should not be able to, they shouldn't be able to let them in just because they say there's something else. If they want to do that to their body, that's fine, but they can use that thing that they've done to their body to get into something that they normally would not be able to do. I don't think it should access any extra privileges at all. I think if someone really wants to, do that, if they want to mutilate their body,
I
then
found the
that's
article
their
that I was
choice.
referring to earlier. I was able to find it. I had to do a bit of research. This is the article just for reference.
Okay. You know what? I'll probably read through this later.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it
I'll
up
Okay.
in case you guys
definitely
want to
gonna
see that.
bookmark that.
All right.
And you may continue, Nick.
Okay. So what I'm basically saying is, if they want to pump themselves full of chemicals, if they want to mutilate their body, that's fine, but nobody should be forced to help them, such as doctors, and nobody should be forced to deal with it. I think there's a few cases where people are getting, a little bit antsy about their pronouns, as they call it now, and I disagree with that. I think that people can call you whatever the hell they want, and if you don't like it, you can just, don't talk to that person. I don't think they should be required in any sense to say what they want you to say. I think that if you want to do it, you're on your own.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Actually, I would like to agree slightly with you. I believe that yes, there's things like the pronouns and things like that where people should not be forced to use that pronoun. I believe that it's more of a common courtesy thing at this point, and that
Yeah.
if you are misgendered, that is completely and utterly not their fault. It is yours, because you have created the personality and persona of something that someone can relate you to. It's like misnaming like a food or something. You call a pancake a crepe or something like that. It's not a law. It's not law that you can accidentally call a pancake a crepe.
I agree. May I respond?
Yes,
Uh,
you may. Thomas, you've got still 30 seconds.
yeah, I would like to say though that this is bounds to help bring down social barricades that we've created as a society against the different stigmas between our two genders and things like that.
All right, that's
Okay.
exactly 1 minute. And Nick, sorry, go.
All right. So what I'll say to that is, I'm glad you agree with that because that's exactly what I think. I think if someone misgenders you, you don't have to be friends with that person. That person's also not required to, like on some college campuses where some people will force you to say whatever said person wants you to call them. I think that the pronoun issue is definitely. I agree with you on that. As far as the whole social barricades thing, what I'm going to say about that is I do believe they are necessary. Men and women are different for reasons, like I said before. So I just think that tearing down social barricades isn't necessarily something that we all want to do. And I respect that opinion, but this is mine.
All right, Thomas, do you need any rebukes? If not,
No,
we're finished.
I
Not the
believe that we've
debate,
done
but
pretty good.
all right, that topic's finished. Next one, this is going to be more fun than last. Legalizing drugs.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
This is my
Nick,
shit.
I'll give you the go.
Oh, thank God. All right, so what I got to say about legalizing drugs. I am, in most of my views, libertarian. This includes the drugs. I believe in freedom. I think that, here's what I think about it. I think that as long as the drug is not an immediate harm to you, so as long as you're not doing heroin or cocaine or crack, I think that some of the more advanced stuff that can get you real, you can be a danger to yourself or others more so than things like alcohol or marijuana. I think that those should still remain banned, but I do largely believe that other things, lighter things like marijuana, should be legalized in every state.
All right, that's pretty good. I agree. Thomas, your turn.
I believe that there should be a federal legalization, but also decriminalization of certain drugs. I believe that things that are low non-gateway drugs, such as marijuana, I believe shrooms are not technically a gateway drug.
Mm-hmm.
Other things like milk, I believe milk is not a gateway drug.
Mhm.
I believe that there are certain things like that which should be completely decriminalized, legalized, everything federally. But I believe that all hardcore and what the FDA certifies as like hardcore gateway drugs should be only decriminalized, not like banned or legalized, because decriminalizing them would create a stigma that, if you're going to use it and try it for the first time, and if you get messed up, that's your fault. You're an adult, hopefully. We're never going to be able to truly stop
10 more
people under
seconds.
the age of 21 from doing things like this, but it's your fault.
All right. So I agree you both, or I think you guys both agree on that. So now I have a
Yeah.
sub question. So there's a presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, and one of his policies is basically that he wants to on 420 or not decriminalize, release all non-violent drug offenders who are in the prison system right now. Do you
Ooh,
agree with
that's a good
that?
question.
I will start with Thomas.
I don't know much about the recent presidential candidates. I haven't been keeping up with that because it's not exactly my time to really get into all of it. Um, I don't know. Is this a one-time thing, real quick? Is it like a one-time thing for the when he becomes president, or will it be a constant thing?
It's literally so basically he's going to any person that's in prison right now for drugs that was a non-violent crime, just like they got caught and they had it, will be basically let out of the prisons, and then but anyone who's like went to jail because they were doing a drug deal and they shot someone, they're gonna stay in prison, and this would be literally basically after it, no one's going to jail for having like non-violent drug offenses.
Hmm.
Okay, so nonviolent drug offenses being I've thought about this before. Yes, I believe that it's a joke on 420 that kind of thing. I believe that that is a completely legitimate thing that we should do though. I'm kind of skeptical on it though because you're releasing people who intentionally decided to break a rule in our state, and that shows that they are not trustworthy to continue to not break these laws. So I believe that they should have some rights taken away. I believe that they should lose their right to vote, and that they should also. I was thinking about this. I can't remember what else it was. It's right to vote, and I don't.
Bear
It's
arms, question mark?
right to vote, right to bear arms, and then their right for legal ownership of any kind of business.
Alright. Nick, you
Hmm.
have a minute 30 to respond.
All right, so what I'm going to say about that is I have been keeping up with the candidates. Andrew Yang, very interesting person. As
Agreed.
far as the release of, all the people who've been released, I do agree with it. So I agree that I think we should legalize marijuana, and then I think anyone who was in prison for it previously should be released. I don't agree with, taking away their right to vote and stuff. That seems a little harsh to me. So, I mean, maybe at the most, I'd say put them on a watch list or something just to keep tabs on them, but I don't think they should be deprived of their human rights.
Alright. Do you need any time to respond to that? If not, I'll be move on to the next topic.
No, I don't think I need any. I'm good.
Alright. So the next topic is going to be Medicare for all. Now, there's a Bernie Sanders policy. Pretty much just any of the gajillion Democrats running for the primary want some form of Medicare for all. Bernie Sanders being the actual one, I think, that has the best plan of all of them. But I will start this off in Nick's corner. So, Nick, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Medicare for all is a pretty interesting one. So, what I'm going to say about it is I don't agree with it pretty much in any way. I don't agree with Bernie. I don't agree with any of the other 20 million Democrats that are trying to push for it. I think that all healthcare should be private. I believe that most things in general should be private because that gives people jobs and it drives up a need for it and it makes them compete. And this is why I think that, like, for example, I don't think TSA should exist because if we had more private security, they would actually compete with each other and actually be good, unlike TSA. Same thing, I
TSA
think.
sucks.
Honestly.
Yeah, same thing. I think the same thing applies to healthcare. I think if we let them compete with each other, they'll work to be better and better, which will give people better healthcare. Now, I understand some of the things like poor people who don't have the money to afford it, and I think maybe there should be ways to help them out, and that's fine. But I don't think that in any way, I don't think that private healthcare should be abolished, like some of the radicals are saying on the left. That's all I got to say.
Alright, Thomas, you have a minute 30 to respond.
I believe that we
Actually,
should
sorry. You have 2 minutes to make your base point.
I believe that healthcare for all in slight is okay. I believe that basic injuries such as, needs of stitches, any injury that is predisposed genetically, such as diabetes, other small things like that, like different forms of AIDS, HIV, things like that. I believe that they should be given free care to all people who are born with that kind of genetic disposition, and any low level injuries that would not be very cost damaging, such as like an emergency visit because your dog bit you, as my brother recently happened to him, and other different things like that that are low level injuries should be free to the person. But things that are very serious, such as heart transplants, lung transplants, things like that, those should be taken care of by a private healthcare insurer.
Alright.
All right.
Nick, do you need any time to respond?
Just a little bit.
All right.
So I'm going to say that's an interesting view. I can respect it. And in fact, I'm not going to disagree with it. I like the idea of, some of the smaller things of the predisposed stuff to be taken care of. I wouldn't be fully against that as long as private healthcare remained the main system. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Thomas, do you need any time to rebuke his rebuke?
It wasn't really a rebuke, I'd
Yeah,
say, but
it is
no,
just
I'm good.
pretty much an agreement. But
Yeah.
all right. Next topic then. I'm basically just going to be going through democratic policies, and this is one that I found quite interesting actually. Universal basic income.
Ooh.
Fuck it, Thomas. You get 2 minutes.
Talking to this man here, Nick, I believe that we'll both be on agreement on this.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. I believe that that's not a possibility. I believe that there's no way our economy could sustain such an action with how many people that would. It would create almost like a true socialist idealism where it's like, oh, if I just don't do anything, I'm still making money. What's the point in me actually doing anything?
Hold up.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to find like a. Alright, you have your time to respond. Thomas, by any chance, would you know like a name generator that I could just like put your name and Nick's name into, just to roll for you guys?
Yeah. Let me look one up real quick.
All right, Nick, you have your time to start.
All right. So what I'm gonna say is I do mostly agree with that. I think that the idea just seems a little too far fetched. Like I heard, it's just no, it doesn't work. Like some of the people suggesting that are not. It's just they don't understand that. Where's all that money going to come from, especially when we're already in debt as a nation? I mean, people like AOC, who literally on her thing said unwillingness to work. That's my biggest pet peeve with that. The biggest problem that I see with it is that people may, leech off the money and then not use it for anything good, say drugs, for example, and then, not use it to do anything. I think it's a dumb idea, and I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's even realistic, to be honest.
All right. Thomas, do you need your time to respond? Well, actually, he just agreed with you, so.
Yeah, we agreed on that topic.
All right.
Kind of guessed that one.
Funnier thing that I found, and this is another Yang policy, is free marriage counseling to every marriage, like every couple.
Ooh, I think we're gonna agree on this one too.
I think so as well.
Yeah, that's.
Let's see. Hold up. And the generator chose Nick. So Nick, start.
All right. So I think we will agree, maybe. So what I'll say about that is no. I think that's a silly idea. I think if you want to save your marriage, you got to do it on your own. Plus, by keeping marriage counselors as, once again, as a business, I don't think anything should be free. It gives people something to do. And I think that free marriage counseling just sounds like a. Oh God, I didn't even know that policy existed. It sounds real dumb.
Neither did I until I was researching things today. Alright, Thomas,
that's all I gotta say is it's kind of dumb.
Yeah, that's stupid. I don't understand the point of that. Like, if you get married, that's your decision, and
it's your responsibility.
Yeah, you were the one who decided you were responsible enough to take on that. I believe that it's pointless for that to even be thought of.
Alright.
It's just ugh.
Back to some more serious topics now. What do you guys hold up, let me do the little roller.
Ooh.
And it has chosen Thomas. What do you think of immigration? What is your immigration kind of policy?
I don't really, in all honesty, I haven't been keeping up with the immigration that much. From what I've heard, we have a very lengthy immigration system. I'm not for sure about it. I wasn't expecting this question, so I didn't really look up anything about it. But I believe that, first of all, what our president has proposed, the wall, is the most pointless and idiotic idea ever. I believe that
I'm gonna change this question to the wall debate then.
Yeah. Oh, the wall debate. Oh, yeah. I believe it's the most idiotic and pointless thing ever. I believe that there's so many alternative ways to transport drugs and other different items across the border that a wall would not change anything. You're just going to find people who become more and more creative on ways to get it over and under and around. and beside all that stuff.
All right, Nick. Let's see. You have a minute to respond.
All right, so for the wall, I'm gonna say I'm really in between on that issue. I don't disagree with it, but I also don't think it's the smartest idea in the world. So, but on immigration, what I'll say about immigration is I think that I have no problem with immigration in general. I think that people should be able to come into our country if they do it the fair way. I think that all these illegal immigrants that are hopping in don't deserve to get as many benefits as they do. I don't even think they should be able to hop in. I think that if you want to do it the fair way. The other thing I have a problem with is people who say about, giving these immigrants, these illegal aliens who jump our border, who break the law to do so, free healthcare and all kinds of stuff. I think that if anyone in this country deserves free healthcare, I think it's the veterans.
All right. Well, they do. It's
Yeah,
VA.
yeah. VA does give you that kind of stuff.
If actually, I'm not sure if all veterans get it, but I know if you get
Not all do.
disabled at all, then you get VA. But I'm not sure if all do. All right.
I believe it's yeah.
So then, something I'm going to ask, and it's kind of sub question of the wall question. So a while back, there was a GoFundMe site called We the People Build the Wall, which originally was an idea to try to raise $5 billion to give it to Trump to build the wall. Now, basically, the Democrats in the House declared that even if they were to raise $5 billion, you know, they can't give us the money because it'd basically be money. What was it called? Shit, I cannot remember what they called it. Money bribing, basically. I can't remember what clause it breaks, but basically, though, so that
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, the person who did it basically said, "Go fuck yourself, Nancy Pelosi," and then started "We the People Build the Wall," which was a subsection of it. And he took all $23 million from the original fundraising and started a project to actually build the wall as a private company. So what happened is it went about 3 months without any report, and then he posted a video, and they actually started building a wall along El Paso. What do you think of this if they do it by themselves without the government?
Who starts?
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to do the generator. Boom, 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 boom. Faster.
Gotta be a way to skip that cutscene
Yeah,
thing.
I know, right? Nick.
All right. So what I'll say about that is, I do believe that if the people want to do something, they probably should be able to. I believe that if enough people are going to get together that they're able to do that, they should be able to do it because clearly they're on to something. And I mean, I know a lot of people disagree with the wall, and I can understand why some people would think that it's kind of a bad idea, but I think that if the people want that, I think it should be there. I disagree with Nancy Pelosi and her just kind of shutting it down. If the people want it, it should be so.
All right. Thomas, you have a minute review.
I would like to say that I understand governmental funding shutdown of it. It makes sense. It's a very hefty expense, and what I've seen, I don't believe that it would actually help benefit blocking of any trafficking or immigration. I do believe that if it's a privately funded wall, and like ICE and the DEA and things like that communicate and work with them to create a safe environment on the wall and blocking the border, then it's perfectly fine. It's not causing any benefit. I mean, not any detriment to any person. So there's no reason it shouldn't be allowed.
Okay.
All right. And one of our last few questions here are going to be, let's see, got my entire little list over here. Free education, such as a Bernie Sanders type plan, and who will start. I really hate this cutscene, Thomas.
I know. I found the first one that I could find.
It works though. So Nick, you will go on the issue of free college.
All right.
free
So what I'm going to
education,
say,
it's called.
well, yeah, free education. So what I'll say about free education is I don't think that that should be a thing. Once again, I believe that everything is business. I think that you should have to pay for pretty much everything you do. Now, I do actually believe in, some policies, including giving, kids of veterans maybe free college or stuff like that. I believe that all is correct. I just don't think that every American citizen should have free education. I think if you want to choose to go to college, you should, be able to do that. But if you choose to do that, you should pay for it. And I think if you don't want to go to college, then you shouldn't have to pay for it. So if you don't want to pay for it, don't do it. If you do want to do it, then pay for it.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
All right, Thomas, your time starts now.
I believe that private private colleges and like funding towards that would ruin the system of economics that colleges have created and the amount of money that they produce and they use. And I feel like there are some ways that we could create a better way to create influx in people joining jobs that are understaffed and underdeveloped. Like if we had some form of job that was underdeveloped, I believe that the government should intentionally add what's it called, I don't know, the only word I can think of right now is a bounty for people who would decide to do that job. I believe that if there's a need and demand for it, there should be a reason to do such job. But if it was for all, it would once again create like a Cuba situation, a communist situation where people are like, oh, I can get paid to go do this job. Why would I actually do it? I'm just going to get the money and not actually do the job.
All right.
Yeah.
Nick, I don't think you need any repeat. Your opinions seem pretty in the
I'll say one. I'll say
Alright.
one thing about it. I'll say I do agree with that. I think that the problem is giving people. This is the problem with giving people free stuff in general. Is that people are going to take it for granted. That's just the way that people are. So, I do agree with you on that.
All
Yeah.
right. On the it's about to get dark as fuck, by the way.
Ooh.
School shootings. How do we solve them? Let's see. Oh my
Ooh.
god, the spinner. Honestly, like, oh my god. dude.
Well, you're going to have to find a better one.
Thomas, you start on how you would fix the school shootings if you could. Like, if you had any like policy ideas that you could do, which one would you test? So to speak, is the question.
Wait, what did you say? Sorry, I was
So
talking
if
to
you
someone.
had a policy idea for how to solve a school shootings, what would that policy idea be?
Who's going first? Is it me or? Okay, it's me. I believe there's no real way. I feel like I've never seen an effective strategy because if someone has their mind set on doing something, it's gonna happen. If someone who would do such a thing, which is a heinous act, they're gonna do it. I don't believe there's a way to stop such a terrible thing. It's something that when someone decides to do it, they're going to, or they're not. They're gonna either do it or not do it.
All right, Nick, do you need a review?
Yeah, I'll state my opinion
yeah,
on this.
state your
So,
Or your
I
policy.
do agree with you to an extent. So, as far as a policy goes, I'm not sure there is a policy that can fix it. I do agree with, what he said about if you implement a policy, let's say gun control, which is what a lot of these people push for, the people who truly have their mindset on it are still going to find a way. And so the truly evil people in the world who would commit such a terrible act will in the end do it anyways. I don't think a policy can change that. I think there are ways that the individual schools can help at least. And I do believe that schools should have more guards. I think that it is critical that some schools who don't have as many armed guards or cops need to do that, because what's going to stop a school shooter? A sign that says no guns. You see this online all the time, but what's going to stop them? A sign that says no firearms, or someone holding a firearm that will stop them if they attempt something. I think that it's an unfortunate topic, but I do think that that is the solution.
All right. Well, that was actually going to be my next question. Is what do you think about teachers being trained and then allowed to have guns on campus in prevention to try to stop some types of school shooting? Let's see. Little fucking wheel over here. The wheel has spoken. Thomas, you go first.
Ooh, again. I'm completely for it. I believe that we're gonna need a lot of regulation, all of which I cannot say for certain. There will have to be lots of tests and studies done before we can truly implement this.
All right.
But for right now, I believe that there has to be multiple psychological evaluations. But
Don't give Mr. Kirshner one.
yeah, he would have shot me instantly.
Dude, he would have shot Caden, bro.
Yeah.
Alright, continue.
I believe that like it should be there should be mental evaluation, but not only one singular like one time before you get it mental evaluation. I believe there should be progressive, probably bi-yearly mental evaluation of teachers that
So, like,
get to use
checkups.
these. Yeah,
I
checkups.
agree.
And I believe that there should be a very extensive training course on how to, before using your weapon, disarm any kind of engagement between two students or a student and something harmful.
Alright. Well, the next question, Nick, do you need any rebuke to that, or do you agree?
I do want to talk about that. So, what I'll say about that situation is that I definitely do agree that some teachers should get access to the firearms and they should have yearly psychological evaluations. That's something that I do definitely believe in. I think that there should be some armed teachers. I'm not. I do think that if they were to do that, that there should be guards as well, just because a teacher's not, even if they do have the right training, they're not always going to be as reliable as a police officer.
Mhm.
So I would say teachers with guns, definitely I am for it, but also with
With one or
additional
two armed
people.
guards, correct?
Yeah, with 1 or 2 armed guards.
Alright.
I want to add one more thing onto what I said.
Alright.
I also want to state that I believe that there is a limit to the weaponry which should be allowed in the school at a time. I believe that I feel like there should be a limit on caliber size
Alright.
and what kind of round is used. I don't know exactly.
with
I'm not an expert on all calibers and guns, but I believe that a low power round such as a 22 should be used at like the medium size. I believe that we shouldn't really go over much because there's still a chance that you can harm them and not fatally injure them.
Alright.
Okay.
Alright, Nick, do you need any time to rebuke that, or agreed?
I'm gonna agree with them in that. I think that there should not be powerful weapons whatsoever. I do agree that there should not be that many guns in the school. I think that only the people who really need them should get them. I don't think you should just put them in every classroom.
Yeah.
I think that there should be people, stationed outside in case something goes wrong. But I definitely do agree that we should have limits on what kind of guns they're allowed to use, because, like you said, there is still a chance that if they wound the student, they don't die, and preservation of life is a good thing always. So
Alright, then next question about our school system. Do you think it is good right now, or does it need some kind of restructuring? What are your views on it? The wheel has spoken for... Nick.
ooh, okay, this is one that I know much about. Okay, so what I'm going to say about the current school system, and this is as someone who actually does not go to public school for these following reasons. The current school system, I think, is, to put it frankly, very
We
bad.
use cuss words here. This is a cuss
Oh,
word
very
section.
shitty.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is a very shitty system. I think that half of these, most of these schools, in fact, I think that most of these schools are in terrible conditions. I think that there should be some sort of overhaul. I don't know how we would do it, just because it would be such a massive project. But I think that, sticking a bunch of what are now considered mentally unstable high schoolers all in the same place for 8 hours a day ain't a great idea. I also don't agree with the current school system as far as extracurricular things go. I think that you should go there to learn your basics, like, things like band and gym. I don't think those should be school required. I think that those should be, if you want to learn how to play an instrument, you should, learn it on your own time. I think that's a hobby. If you want to be fit, also your choice. So I think that any unnecessary things that are not vital for your education should be cut out of the system. I think that teachers should definitely be paid more and somehow incentivized to teach better, because honestly, there are some pretty shitty teachers out there. We all know this.
Right.
And I think that the entire school system is right now not very great. That's my opinion.
Thomas?
Yeah, I agree with you on the fact that the school system is not great, and I agree that teachers should be incentivized in some way. I believe that they should get some sort of social worker thing. I don't really know much about that whole policy, but I do not agree with you on the removal of things such as band and other things. I personally, being a high school student who is involved in band program and multiple other sport activities.
Real quick, Nick, would you clarify when you said ban things like banned or get rid of them? Did you mean just like for all students, or just like not make it a requirement? Because right now I think you need things
Not a
like
requirement.
not a requirement. So
I think
the
that
program
you
Oh.
should
should
still
a
be able
thing.
to participate. I just think
Okay.
that,
But it
like
shouldn't be
one of my
required that
friends'
you take those
example, yeah,
classes.
like a bunch of my friends have been required to, take
gym
like
class
an
or
X
take
amount of, yeah. I don't think that that should be required. No, I do fully support them in the schools. I think that they should be an option. I think it's great that they are an option. I just don't think anyone should be required to do it. If someone isn't interested in band or art or anything like that, they should not have to take it in at any point. If they don't want to, I think that they should still exist, just not required.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, now that you clarify that, I completely agree with you on that
Okay.
statement. That band and things like that, there definitely should be allowed in the school, and they should be a class, but they do not need to be a forced on class. I believe that they are definitely an extracurricular that you could decide to do. My
Yeah, my
big
bad. I
problem
should
though, yeah, it's all good. My big problem though is the requirement of foreign language. I believe that that is completely unreasonable and should not be allowed whatsoever. I believe that any foreign language learning should be extracurricular and not required in any sort of diploma or anything like that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I also think that schools, I don't believe that we will be able to change the school buildings. I believe that that will be a school required thing because once again, schools are businesses and they create their own income and things like that. I believe that one large thing should be school lunch in general and school appeal when it comes to things like lunch and food and things like that. I believe Michelle Obama made some mistakes telling us that we can't eat certain foods.
I agree.
And that we should really work on the happiness of students instead of the happinesses of teachers and things like that. The student happiness levels are very low.
All right.
All right.
Next questions then.
Well, can I respond to that?
Sure.
I guess what I want to say is finally a man of culture. You do agree,
Yes.
so I agree with you fully on that. I think that the health, the mental health, and the happiness of the students should be priority number one. Pretty much on all that, I definitely agree. I think that all that is very true. You may move on.
All right. So next question is pretty much become now a school debate. So, as both of you probably know, right now, our school's lunches cost like $2.50, like for one lunch, and this is another proposal I've heard from I've even heard this from some Republicans and like conservatives. Free school lunches.
Who shall start this one?
Let the wheel speak. God, I hate this wheel. The wheel has spoken, Thomas. Sorry. All right, Thomas.
I believe that school lunches should definitely be paid for, especially with what I said last time about
paid for as in by the student or by the
like
school?
paid for by the student.
All right.
I believe that when having a child, the parents should understand that they are going to have to be supporting the child through an income. I believe that there should, as you've seen in schools, there are definitely lunch programs that the school will help pay for. I believe that that should definitely be a thing.
If you're actually under a certain income level, I believe you get free lunch.
Yeah, I believe that that is definitely a thing that should be kept. And with what I've said, as I believe that we should improve school lunches, that would require an increase in the amount of money paid for by the school for the lunches. I believe that you should not be costing the students the full price it is to produce the lunches, but they should still be paying some sort of fee so that the school can continue to provide a lunch that is good for the student.
All right. Nick, your turn.
All right. So, I mean, once again, with this whole thing, I largely agree with you on that. I think that Michelle Obama really messed up. But I think mainly that with school lunches, I think the students should all still have to pay for them. But I think the free lunch programs are a good thing. I think that some of the lower income people getting their free lunch is fine. I mean, if you can't pay for the lunch, then just take something of your own, eat your own food at home. Like, I just think that they should have to pay for it.
All right. Um, so I gotta move a bit faster here. Next question. So this is something that I've heard. So in foreign language classes, it's no longer a requirement that the teacher is from a foreign country and has lived in that foreign country for a certain amount of time. So I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on should a foreign language teacher have to be from a certain country to speak the certain language? For instance, if a French immigrant came here and wanted to be a French teacher, should they be allowed to, and should we replace more like? So right now we have a French teacher. I'll use this example. Her name's
Yeah.
Miss Dutch. She's kind of garbage at teaching French. Not gonna lie, but do you think that we should replace someone like Miss Dutch with like a French foreigner who actually knows how to speak the language properly and knows what you'd be using in certain conversations to teach the kids how to speak it? Let's see. The wheel will speak in 3, 2. The wheel has spoken, Thomas.
Gosh, I'm on a streak here, man. I don't like this. I was actually waiting for this one. This is one of the ones that I've been really interested. I personally have dealt with teachers from foreign places.
Mhm.
My problem was that they were put in positions that they did not belong in. Like in my 7th grade year, I was placed in English class with a new exchanged, like a new legal immigrant from Italy. His name was Mr. Manfredini, and he taught 7th grade English.
Where he was teaching English.
He could barely speak the English language. Yeah, he was
Well,
teaching.
not what I'm saying. I mean, like.
Yeah,
The
well, no,
foreigners
but I'm
teaching the French or Italian language. That's what
yeah,
I'm
that
saying.
was what this was going into. I
Okay.
believe that if it was required for a teacher to be from that that culture or have lived in that culture, that would have placed him in a better position to get a job that he was more fit for. If he had been placed in a culture or language class for Italian, he would have been in a much better fit position. He wouldn't have dealt with a lot of the problems he had dealt with communication errors and disrespect to him because of his being foreign and not really knowing what he's doing.
Mhm.
I believe that that would really solve a lot of those issues. And also, as you said, having garbage teachers who really don't know what they're talking about because they've only studied a place.
Mhm.
But I also, adding on to that fact, I believe that all language classes should not be referred to just as language classes. I believe that they should be changed to culture classes,
All right.
telling
So
people
teaching
that
both about the
yeah.
culture and the language.
yeah, I like in our French class we learn about the culture. I believe
Yeah,
that
I
it was
mean,
kind of misleading
we
on that
learned some
fact.
stupid things though about the culture. Like, you're gonna learn about this next year in French too. Um, she has an entire day, Thomas, to where you have to go up to someone with a fish, tape it to their back, take a picture, and then submit it. Just
We did that this year,
Oh,
yes.
okay, you did that.
Yeah, and if it was someone teaching from that like natively, we wouldn't be doing stupid things like
Yeah.
that because that's useless. We would be learning true culture.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I'm
saying.
sorry. I'm sorry I took so long for that, sir.
No, that's fine.
yeah.
All right, Nick, and that is your rebuke time. I'll give you 2 minutes.
All right. So what I'm going to say about that whole situation is, I think that, well, first off, I think that I do agree with what you said about the whole culture thing. I think that it should not be required. I don't think the language classes should be required. I think you should choose to take them. However, I do also think that they should be possibly implemented with some culture aspects, which probably could help out. So I agree on that front. As far as, immigrants being put into the spots of teachers,
Legal immigrants,
I
by the
think
way.
it just, legal immigrants, yeah. I don't agree with any legal or illegal immigrants. So what I'll say about it is, I think it just depends on how good they are at it. I think if they are better than a current teacher, then yeah, they should get that spot. I think if a French immigrant is better than an American or an American who speaks French, if they're better, they should be able to take that. Because I think it's all about the better of the education. That's my opinion. I think that whoever can teach the kids better should get it.
All right. So then here's the next question, because Thomas, I think you agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So here's our next question. So we've kind of already doused a bit on this topic. So we both know our school system and how it works right now kind of fucking sucks.
Yes,
But
we've said this many a time.
Yeah, but in Europe,
Yes.
they have, in my opinion, a much superior type of school style. So, would you guys both agree or be opposed to changing our system more of a kind of European style to where it's you go there till you're 16, and instead of taking finals every year, you take one big final, and I can find out how it's graded. It's graded, I believe, each one is graded out of a total score of 10. And you have to get like a 7 out of 10 on it to pass on each one of your finals for your final year. But would you be more willing to do one of those where it's like every other day you've got a math class, like Monday you've got math, Tuesday you've got English, Wednesday you've got a foreign language if you're taking a foreign language class, or would you rather just keep it as you go to school and you rot in the same 8 periods every day? Let's see, and the wheel has spoken for Nick this time. Thomas, your streak is over.
I'm good with that. I like that.
Alright.
So I'll say largely I do agree with that. I think that the current system does suck. I think that taking out the every year finals and stuff, I think overall changing our system to be maybe not always more like that, but changing how it's structured, I think could mainly, well, the big thing is reduce the stress on students, how stressful finals are every year and how it is. I personally think that I'm all in support of it. I think if we were to change it, that's a good place to start.
All right. Thomas, it is your turn now.
I believe that I don't really know much about European school systems. It's not a thing that I've studied or
Oh my
looked
God,
into.
Miss Dutch hasn't freaking taught you guys about that yet?
She did, but I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, she is kind of boring, so I could see that.
yeah. So my big thing is that I feel like that kind of situation would actually benefit me as a person because of how I act, how I do things, and how like I process information. But I would do better in school, but I feel like I would learn less as a person. I believe that it should be a decision based off once you leave middle school. Your teachers should all get together, and there should be some sort of like basis for this. But they should decide whether or not you should go to different schools that are based in these different formats. I believe that people like me, where I have problems keeping all my stuff together during a class, like during a long day, should actually be put into schools like that so that I'm forced to adapt and learn how to do that, because that'll help benefit me in other life.
Well,
And then,
here's how it works, because I feel like you might be not thinking of the same thing about how it works.
yeah,
Basically, how it works is not like a completely different school. It's the same school building, but how it works is you go to school, I believe it's for 6 hours there, and say on Monday you've got your math class. So you go there for like the first 3-ish hours, then you have a literal hour and a half for your lunch break, right? Like, and you can leave the school campus, right? Like, you can go home if you feel like it, and you can like play fucking video games, grab a snack from your kitchen, and come back to school. It's
Play Rainbow.
Yeah, like you could literally beat a Call of Duty campaign during lunch. Like, yeah, I know. That's
Yep.
what I thought when I heard they have an hour and a half to eat.
Yeah,
But basically,
yeah.
and then you go back to your classes, and it's not like you learn one day's material. You learn like the entire week's material, and generally you'll have that same class 2 times a week, and then you'll have like a week to study for tests that will be coming up. Continue.
Yeah, I understood that, and that's why I was saying that we need to
Alright.
separate the way that it works. I believe that for me, I would not be able to live in a society like that, in a school system like that. I've had problems where, when given my own time, I would increasingly decide to skip things, show up late to things, and that would be detrimental to my learning as a person. So I believe that someone like me should be placed in a school like what we have now, because that's where I've seemed to learn. I would feel like I would learn better in that.
Alright.
But people unlike me, where they have problems separating school and social life, should be placed into schools like that, where they have this time to create a life for themselves that is social and learn social experiences with other people. I believe that it's based off what the catering to the student and what the student needs to learn and what would be best for the student.
Okay.
Alright. Nick, any rebutts to that?
So what I'll say about that is, I do agree with the element of choice. I think if the student would want to do a classic style, then I think that choice should be up to them. I think it should be their choice. I think if they feel like they're learning more with a different way, then they should be able to do that. I don't think they should be forced to go to the other style, but I do think the other style overall would affect most students better.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's one of our last questions. I've got one more. I
Wow.
believe both of you were good and kind of have the same points.
Yeah, I'm very surprised so far on how commonly yet differently we think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So the last question of this debate is going to be big government versus small government, and let's see who speaks for the generator on this time on Dragon Ball Z. Nick again. So Nick,
Okay.
you have your 2 minutes.
This is one of my favorites. I say small government.
All right.
I am mostly on pretty much all my views. I'm libertarian. I believe that the individual should have more control than the government. I believe in, well, mainly I believe in state power more than center government power. I think that big government ends up leading to bad things. I think that when people have more freedom, they typically do better things. I just generally feel like a smaller government is the way to go. I don't think we should be controlled. I mean, smaller governments are bigger governments, sorry, are one step closer to socialism, which ain't that great.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give you a sort of bonus question then. What do you think about the military's current size? Do you think it should be expanded on this, kept the same, or downgraded?
Okay, so that was actually a question that I was going to request we talk about, because that is actually the one view where I kind of don't agree with a lot of Republicans. I think that the military spending should actually be cut a little bit.
All right.
I think that we're not in any super important conflicts. I think if a conflict arises, we should raise the spending on the military, but I think our current military does not need as much money as we pump into it. I
Right.
think that we could definitely cut down on that a little bit. So that's just my opinion.
All right. Thomas, you have your 2 minutes to state your opinion.
Um, I feel like small government and big government should be equal in power. I believe that they
I do not mean like the small governments and big governments. I mean, would you rather have it at the central, like federal level? Would you rather have a big government or a smaller government?
oh, I see what you mean. I feel like in our case right now, a bigger government would be better for us. Like a larger, more federal-based government would be the best route for us because of all the large differences that states have been having right now. I believe that we've been creating like a lot of differences and infighting between all of America through our are trying to depart from our large amount of government.
Mm.
I feel like this is kind of weird because I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking here. I feel like it's almost a national pride thing. Our government is big and we like it that way in most cases, and I feel like that shows with how much support we give to our government in a lot of times. It shows how we are as a nation, how we rally behind one thing in times of need.
All right. Then, what do you think about military spending as of current?
Currently, I believe that we're on the right track. I
Current
believe
spending, just for record, because I was gonna put it out there during next time, but I kind of forgot to. The current spending is around $800 billion is the current military budget. They generally can spend over it, but that is the current military budget.
I like how we're spending our government money on our military. I believe that how big our military is kind of like I feel like this is kind of funny to say, but a big dick energy.
Yes.
I feel like it shows that we as America are the boss, and if you mess with us, you're screwed. We've proven that many a time. And if I can add on to this
All
though,
right.
I like to mention the fact that I completely and utterly disapprove of our military action right now in most of Europe. I believe that we have too much foreign land being helped by us, and we're not following in our founding fathers' words that we should keep to America
Mhm.
and let Europe do what it does.
All right.
Ooh.
Nick, I'm going to give you your time to rebut now.
All right, so I have another thing to say after this, but we'll say as far as the big versus small government, I'm going to say I just don't agree. I think that a smaller government will always be better because I feel like a bigger government is more control for the central government. And I don't agree with that. Now, that was interesting what you said about our actions in other countries, and I want to talk about that for a second. I'm going to say that I do think that what we're doing is incorrect. I think we should keep to ourselves mainly. I think we involve ourselves way too much in other people's business. I think if it's their business, I don't think that we should just, go over there and, in a sense, will shove our dick in it. I don't think that that's our business. I think we should leave them alone.
All right.
Hmm.
Thomas, do you need a rebut?
I feel like I don't want to get on a big government versus small government thing. I feel like that would be a little, since I'm not personally like super big into like all that stuff. Like our government, I can't really vote right now. This is not my place, so I don't feel like I really want to get into something like that yet without the
So I
proper
was gonna end it
knowledge.
there, but then I heard Nick bring up one more topic, and I was like, okay. So socialism. Let me stop and reset the timer. All right, socialism, and the wheel has spoken for. God damn, Nick, you're on a 3 streak.
Damn, that's pretty good. Socialism, evil. I mean, there's no other way for me to really put it. I think that socialism is a bad system. I think that capitalism got us to where we are now, and I think it will continue to get us further in the future. I think it is a good system, and in every way, I disagree with socialism. I think that if you want something, you got to work for it, and I don't agree with it. Socialism, and I know there's a lot of, Democrats that right now are pushing for that agenda. They're moving further to the left and suggesting socialism. And honestly, I totally disagree. I think that if we tried right now to do that in our country, I mean, you saw what happened in other countries when they tried to do it. Didn't work out so well. So I think generally that socialism is bad and that we should just stick to what we're doing.
All right, Thomas, you have 2 minutes to state your opening case.
Before I really start anything, I would like to ask you, Nick, what are your thoughts on the socialist policies that are in place in America, such as welfare and things like that? I just
Food
want
stamps,
to know your
etc.
stance. Yeah.
All right. So welfare, I think that there should be some. I agree within a loose sense that I think that some people that are in really bad situations cannot fend for them, and people who actually cannot. This is critical. Not people who are unwilling, but people who are faced with challenges that prevent them from getting further should get a little bit of help. But I don't believe that that help should extend to everyone. I think that we should only help people who actually need it.
All right. Thomas, you may continue now.
I would like to say that I understand your reasoning behind like, you know, people who need it. I think that we should extend it out a little bit more. I believe that the middle class should be allowed to get some too, but I think this more of as a way like, they get some sort of help and funding because I would like to help rat out in the middle class the people who believe that they if they take something like that they'll be better because they don't have to work. I believe that we should try and rat out people like that by adding in small socialist and like social works like that to rat out people that we believe would not work in our environment and, give them something that sounds good in retrospect and then them get it and not like it so that we can pull them down from working and push people up who are willing to work into that position. I believe that we should offer and then take away from others to help push them into other places. I believe that we should use it as like a bumping system in capitalism.
All right, Nick, rebut, yes or no?
That's a very interesting opinion because I haven't really heard that before. I'll give it to you. That's a pretty nice thing to think about. I mean, I don't really agree with it because I think that with things like that rely on people making a decision, like giving them a boost, bumping them up, as you said. It does sound kind of good on paper, but you know how humans are. They don't always
Yeah.
do that. They don't always go with how we want them to. And I think that there are some people in the world that no matter what, a lot of the people who do leech off of welfare when they don't really need it, I think a lot of those people are just people who, in the end, are unwilling to work. And so I would disagree with it, but with more talk about it, I don't, super disagree with it.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to say that my stances in that are not like fleshed out because it's a very unheard of idea. Yeah.
Controversial. It's a very new idea, and I think it's reasonable, but I also think that unless it were to be really ironed out, I can't agree with it at the moment.
Yeah, it was just like my thoughts. It's been my thoughts for a while. I don't believe that I'll ever actually be able to put it into action because I'm not the kind of person to do that. Maybe someday I'll try and do it, but try and help give that idea out to people. But I believe that right now socialism is required in the United States, not as like a force, but as something that we need, like for smaller tasks such as road maintenance and things like that, where people should give in money to fund things like that. I believe that that's where socialism's place in America is, and that's close to what you said.
All right. So are you guys in agreement? Like, not agreement, but
Yeah.
like, have you guys come to the end of the
Slightly. Yeah.
I mean, I'll just say that I don't agree with most forms of socialism, but I'm also not going to fully disagree because once again, it's not a fully done thing. Yeah, we can move.
All right. That was actually the last topic. I'd like to thank Thomas and both Nick here for coming on the debate, or coming on the show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Nick's information, like his Instagram page, and a link in the description below. I'll put a
There ain't
link,
much there.
non-expiring, to Thomas's Discord and anything else he wants.
Yeah.
And then that's about it. Lane, you got anything to say? Because you kind of sat here for like 2 hours or an hour and a half.
Oh man, I've just been listening along, learning. Sounded fun.
Well, thank you for stopping by, Lane. Hopefully we'll have you on the show sooner than later. And
Oh, yeah.
Peace out.